Demonstration speech, take 2. There's my audience. Okay. Coffee. Who doesn't like a good cup of coffee? Anybody? Anybody in the audience? Everybody. Everybody loves a good cup of coffee in the morning. I know what you're thinking, right? Who is this guy to tell me how to make the perfect cup of coffee? But I think me, being 35 years old and been a serious coffee drinker for a better part of 20 years, I think I'm qualified to tell you how to make that perfect cup of coffee. In this demonstration speech, I'm going to point out a couple of different ways to make it, and also a couple different brands of coffee to use. Now, I know that there's millions of ways to make a cup of coffee, and there's a million brands out there, but I'm just going to give you the 3 most important brands to use, and the best. Okay, the very first thing you need to remember when making that perfect cup of joe is the type of coffee that you're using. Now, if you're me, you'll have 3 choices in your cupboard. The very first one is going to be Trader Joe's Wintry Blend. And it's a fine ground coffee, and it's made with spices. So when you're drinking it, it's kind of a morning cup, and it's pretty good, and other people kind of like it and agree with it. Your second choice will be this Kirkland Signature 100% Colombian coffee. Now, being in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we were fortunate enough to have the very first Costco in Oklahoma. So I had to go try out their coffee. So we bought this, and it's a Costco brand, and it's pretty good. It's a fine grind also, and you can either buy it in bean form or you can buy it already canned. And as you can see, I'm a conventional guy, and I bought it already canned. Now my favorite choice is this Maxwell House French Roast Dark, and it makes the ultimate cup of coffee. And it also comes in this size, comes in smaller size, and I believe it comes in a freeze-dried small jar. Now, the second thing you got to remember when you're making that perfect cup of coffee is the amount of coffee that you're going to use to make your perfect cup of joe. Now, most manufacturers recommend 1 tablespoon per 6-ounce cup of coffee. Now, if you're an experienced coffee drinker like me, that's not going to do. You need at least twice to 2.5% of that ratio. So remember, more coffee per water ratio. Now, the third most important thing to remember when making that morning cup of coffee is the type of water that is going to be used. Now, I prefer tap water. It's awesome, it's free, and it comes right out of the spigot. Now, if you're fancy, you can use distilled water, bottled water, but no, tap water. Now, the next thing you need to remember is always buy the caffeinated brand of coffee. If it's green, don't buy it. It needs to be caffeinated. So, just remember, you guys, the type of coffee, the amount of coffee, and the type of water used is always the most important steps to that cup of coffee. Now, it reminds me of a story of, I think, the very first time that I ever tried coffee. Now, it was wintertime, and I think my grandma invited me in to the kitchen, and she was a depression baby, so, you know, it was probably the very cheapest brand of coffee. And I think she called me in, and she had a little cup. I mean, it was probably a 2-ounce cup, and she probably used a whole bunch of sugar and a bunch of milk, and she called it Indian coffee. But I still remember sitting around the table and having that warm cup of goodness and sharing memories. So that's one of the things that coffee is always good for. I mean, not only is it to help you get up in the morning, it can also be used for a social event, and also for, I don't know, maybe to help you calm down at the end of the day. Some people can use it as a nightcap. And so in conclusion, remember, the thing to a perfect cup of coffee is the type you use, the amount, and the good memories that you share with that perfect cup of coffee. Thank you.